Everyone, today we're going to take a look at this 2022 Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro. The third generation Tacoma here has been on sale since the 2016 model year. It really hasn't changed too much over the years. The TRD Pro model came out for 2017. In the years since, Toyota has given the Tacoma little updates here and there. It's gotten things like an optional electronically raising driver's seat. It's gotten updated headlights. It's got some active safety features. It now offers Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. When it comes to the TRD Pro, updates have kind of worked that way as well. There have been little updates here and there, but through and through, this truck is pretty much the same as it was when it went on sale for 2016. It's available in a few different configurations. You can get it in an extended cab with a 6-foot bed. There's the crew cab here with a 5-foot bed, and then you can also get the crew cab with a 6-foot bed, although those are relatively rare. As far as the TRD Pro goes, though, it's only available as a crew cab and with the 5-foot bed. Powertrain in this one, and in like 98% of Tacomas, is a 3.5 liter V6 paired with a 6-speed automatic transmission. As far as competitiveness goes, well, it's really not that competitive by today's standards. Most competitors offer at least an 8-speed, with some offering 9 and 10-speed transmissions. This one's a TRD Pro, which I think I've said a few times by now, but this is the top tier trim level for the Tacoma lineup. It's meant to offer maximum off-road capability, at least in terms of what you can get from Toyota. It has things like a Fox internal bypass suspension. It sits about 1.5 inches taller than a, say, Tacoma TRD Off-Road. The 2022 Tacoma TRD Pro, from what I understand, sits 1/2 inch taller all around than the 2021 model year Tacoma TRD Pro. It gets a few other updates as well that we'll get into. This one is very green. This color is called Electric Lime Metallic, and yeah, well, you can decide for yourself whether you'd be interested in this color. It's been kind of fun to live with for a week, but I'm not sure that I'd want to live with it for much longer than this. Anyway, though, let's do a tour of the Tacoma TRD Pro here and then take it out for a little drive. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to get into a little bit of why I think this truck gets a lot more credit than it really deserves when it comes to the midsize truck segment as a whole. So let's focus mainly on the TRD Pro stuff, starting up front here. Everyone's seen this grille before. I call it the Toyota wordmark grille. It says Toyota across the front rather than featuring the Toyota emblem. This hood comes from the Tacoma TRD Sport. I don't think most people realize that, but the Tacoma TRD Off-Road, which the Pro here is based on, doesn't have a hood scoop. The TRD Pro does. And yeah, this is the same hood from the Tacoma TRD Sport, because that vehicle also has a hood scoop. There's a new sticker for this year. It says TRD Pro here, and it's matte black. It features a topographical map. Something I noticed, though, they didn't pick a real high elevation part of the map to feature here. I'm wondering what area this is, but it doesn't exceed 1,000 feet above sea level. Anyway, though, headlights, well, we'll go over here. So they do feature an LED element now. That was added a few years back. And then they say TRD on this side and Pro on this side. Moving down to the fog lights, Rigid Industries fog lights have been offered on the Tacoma TRD Pro since the beginning now, or at least since the 2017 model year. Anyway, though, the thing with fog lights is they can't really be too bright. That's something that's federally mandated. So if you wanted auxiliary lighting, you'd have to add that yourself, because Toyota has to adhere to Department of Transportation standards with these lights. But I can say they're relatively clear. They're just not, they're not aftermarket auxiliary lights. Anyway, down here, every TRD Pro model comes with this aluminum skid plate. Pretty hardy skid plate, and you can see it says TRD in it in red letters there. Moving down the side, so you get new wheels for 2022. These are 16-inch wheels, which is kind of fun in an era where most trucks come with, say, 18-inch wheels or bigger. They're a relatively intricate design. They are a matte black color with this red TRD center cap. That center cap part has been used for quite a while now. I have an issue with these tires. The tread is identical to the tires offered on
previous model years of the TRD Pro and on Tacoma TRD off-road models. It's really mild. These are about the mildest all-terrain tire I think you can find. And Toyota offers these for fuel economy because that kind of takes the utmost importance for automakers. But they've changed the sidewall this year to make the tires look more aggressive. And I kind of find that to be deceptive. So look at prior years, they didn't have this big kind of retro styled Goodyear emblem or word mark there. Same goes for Wrangler and Territory AT. These are Goodyear Wrangler Territory AT tires. They are size 265, 70, R16. Then they do have a Kevlar reinforced layer there. So the tread is the same. Functionally, the tires are the same, but they have a more aggressive looking sidewall, which again, I think can kind of lead to misperception. Anyway, as for the suspension, so one thing that they have changed is the upper control arm for 2022. Like I said, they made the suspension sit half an inch taller, and when you raise the suspension on a vehicle, you should really, if you're gonna do it right, you should change the upper control arms to adjust the geometry further, to adjust, I don't know what that is, camber, I think. So Toyota has done that. This is a really nice, I don't know if it's billet aluminum or what, but it's red, it's shiny, it's finished nice, and it says TRD there. It's because they know you can see that from far away. But yeah, my personal vehicle is that 2008 Land Cruiser over there, and it has about a 1.5 or 2 inch lift on it. And it too has different than stock upper control arms, because yeah, that's just something you should do when you're raising a vehicle. As for the shocks, these are Fox internal bypass shock absorbers. Toyota kind of retunes the shocks every year. I think that's to get another line in the press release referencing the shock absorbers, but yeah, these shocks, the part itself has looked the same since this truck came out, but yeah, Toyota tweaks them ever so slightly every year. I don't know why they didn't just make them that good from the beginning, but yeah, you probably won't notice the difference, but certainly a good looking suspension suspending the 2022 Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro here. Moving down the side, apparently previous model years said TRD Pro here. This one now says Tacoma for 2022. Not sure what's going on there. I wonder if that was a parts availability thing. That's my best guess. Moving down the side, not much to see, although I should add that the TRD Pro now comes with a sunroof. At first, it didn't come with a sunroof. Not sure when that was added, but that was kind of a big omission in my eyes. Let's take a look at the rear shock. So also a Fox internal bypass shock, but it does have a piggyback reservoir there. That is this thing, and that allows the shock to hold more oil, and it allows the oil to be held away from the body of the shock, which keeps it from heating up so quickly, which should mean sustained performance over longer periods. They did change the bedside for 2022. So previously, strangely, Tacoma TRD Pro models didn't have any kind of sticker here even saying that they were a TRD Pro. This vehicle is set to be redesigned for 2024, so I was kind of surprised to see Toyota retool this part just to add this stamping in here. Looks kind of cool. Anyway though, let's move on. So as for the tailgate, it says 4x4 here. It is stamped with Tacoma across the bottom there, and then it does say TRD Pro on the tailgate. This one has a tow package with a 7-pin connector and then a 4-pin connector as well. I've towed with Tacomas in the past, and it is absolutely miserable. Moving on, it also says Toyota on the handle here. Tailgate is very nicely damped. As for the bed, it's made out of a composite material, which is unique. The new Tundra uses this material as well, but it's cold to the touch like metal. Feels like metal, actually. That's because that is metal. The composite starts right here, so metal and then composite. But yeah, it feels like, kind of feels like plastic. It's not cold like the metal bit is right here, but I'm sure it holds up. Seems like it does. I've not heard issues of Tacoma beds cracking or anything like that. And yeah, that composite material covers the whole bed, so you can actually see that this box here is actually all one piece. This is the same piece as this. I don't know if you can tell, but yeah, that sounds like plastic, but it is a composite. And then there's a rail system in this one. The rails just go on either side. I don't love the operation of these slidable rails here. A lot of competitors offer these, and I think Toyota's design is just a little bit clunky. Probably time to
go back to the drawing board and maybe improve these adjustable tie down points here. But there are 4 of them, and regardless of how easy or frustrating they are to use, I'm sure they would come in handy if you needed additional tie down points. You've got 2 fixed tie down points at the back of the bed there, and then D-rings 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then over here, well, there's a light, LED light here, and then there, so 2 lights. And then over here, you've got this little storage compartment, which is kind of funny. Looks like it's just collected a lot of dirt and water now, but you could stuff a first aid kit in there, a pair of gloves, not sure what else, but could come in handy, although it is not locking, so that could cause some complications there. Then there's an outlet here, 3-prong. What do we have here? Max 400 watt idling, and then max 100 watt running. Then it says, to avoid electric shock and electrical system failure, be sure to read owner's manual before use. But yeah, that's 100 watt while running, 400 watt while idling, 3-prong home style outlet in the bed there. That can come in handy if you're trying to run something like a refrigerator or charge some batteries, though keep in mind the limitations. Here's the key. It's a very basic key. It says lock, unlock, and then push and hold for the panic button. The valet key is this little thing. Comes all the way out, but I'd probably drop it if I tried to do that one-handed. Before we climb inside here, let's take a look at payload. So the combined weight of occupants and cargo should never exceed 990 pounds. But then we have to factor in this little sticker right here that says, I imagine this was added either at the port or by the dealership, that says, caution, load carrying capacity reduced. Modifications to this vehicle have reduced the original load carrying capacity by 25 kilograms or 55 pounds. I have to think that is these floor mats. So you've got 1, 2, and then a big one in the back, and then there's also a bed mat here. I imagine that the combined weight of those comes out to 55 pounds. But when you do a little math, 990 minus 55 is what? 935. So the combined weight of all the people and all the things in this vehicle should never exceed 935 pounds. That's pretty low. Compare this to, say, a Ford Ranger with the FX4 package. That vehicle offers over 1,500 pounds of payload, according to this sticker inside the door jamb. Even if you step up to the Ranger Tremor, this figure stays above 1,400 pounds. So when I mentioned that this vehicle has some shortcomings, payload is certainly one of them. This is abysmally low. And in fact, it's the lowest that you'll find in this segment. So keep that in mind. Payload is important because if you exceed your vehicle's payload capacity, it can void your warranty. And if you were to exceed your vehicle's payload capacity and you were to get into an accident, the other person could sue you for your vehicle being overloaded. In addition, this tells you that all the components in this vehicle, say the frame, the brakes, the engine mounts, the body mounts, they were only tested and certified for up to 990 pounds, or in this case, 935 pounds, which, again, pretty low. Let's take a look at this window sticker. So you can see this is a 2022 Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro. That exterior color is called Electric Lime Metallic. And the final assembly point for this vehicle is Guanajuato, Mexico. Given that this one's a TRD Pro, it's about the most expensive Tacoma you could buy. And as equipped, it comes in at $50,733 when you factor in a destination fee of $1,215. That figure feels pretty steep given some of this vehicle's shortcomings. Fuel economy with the TRD Pro comes in at 18 mpg city, 22 highway, and 20 mpg combined according to the EPA. Given that this is a Toyota, there's a lot of beeping when you start it up, but this interior has been around for a while. It's pretty familiar. Everything feels pretty robust. You've got one-touch up and down operation for the front doors. Door panel, everything's pretty truck-like in here. That's par for the course for this segment. Four-wheel drive control is right here, so you default to two-wheel drive, obviously. You can shift into 4 high on the fly when you're moving, and then to go into 4 low, come to a stop, put the vehicle in neutral, go into 4 low, and then go back into drive, and you're ready to do some technical off-roading. Everything feels pretty good. All the controls feel good, as you would expect from a Toyota product. Heated seats are right here. HVAC controls are here. Down here, you've got an electronically sliding rear window. So I'll push this, And the rear window opens and closes electronically. You still got USB-A, which is a bummer. TRD Pro comes with a wireless charging pad. That's this right here. Turn it off, turn it on. The pad itself is right here. Here are your cup holders. Here is the lever for the 6-speed automatic transmission, which is frankly not a very good transmission. Drive, pop it over into sport mode, and it's a little bit more tolerable. Same goes for pushing the ECT power button. Pretty much every Toyota truck ever has had this button. It stands for electronically controlled transmission power mode. So the transmission reacts a little bit more responsively when this button is pressed. You get that little ECT power icon there. But yeah, all around, transmission and gearing are one of this vehicle's, well, the other huge shortcoming of the Tacoma, but we'll get to that in a minute. You still get a manual parking brake, which is fun. Here's a cup holder in a little cubby here, in addition to these two cup holders. Inside here, you've got a USB-A port and a USB-C port. I don't know if you can see it way down in there, but yeah, that's a USB-C port, so that's kind of fun. I think that's something that they added this year. Infotainment is still Toyota's old system. They are in the process of rolling out a newer system. I have to think that will come to the Tacoma when it's fully redesigned. I'm thinking for the 2024 model year. But this system, it's tolerable. Luckily, you can now use Android Auto and Apple CarPlay with this infotainment system. That's one way to get around its shortcomings, but I guess you get used to it. It's not, I won't even call it good, but it's tolerable. In here, you've got a color readout. This has been in the Tacoma for years now. You still got mechanical gauges, so there's a tachometer, speedometer. Up here, you've got some fun stuff. Every Tacoma TRD Off-Road and TRD Pro with an automatic transmission comes with multi-terrain select and crawl control. So you have to be in 4-low to use this stuff, but you push this button, brings up multi-terrain select, and you can cycle between a few different types of terrain like mud, rocks, ruts, sand. Then you've got crawl control over here. This feature's been around for a long time. It's kind of like off-road cruise control. You can use it to get through really rough, rocky terrain or to get through sand. Sometimes it can even pull the vehicle out of sand. Pretty clever system. Most competitors have adopted this system, but Toyota was first to market with it. Kind of clunky though the way it operates. That covers the front seating area. There's not a whole lot to see here. Get this kind of blocky square texture to the leather seats. They say TRD Pro in the headrest. That's stitched in. And then up top, like I said, you now get a sunroof. You didn't always get a sunroof with the TRD Pro. Check out the back seat really quickly. So there's not a whole lot to see back here. Not a ton of space. There's a pretty big hump right there. There's a pocket on the passenger seat back. Nothing on the driver's seat back. Door panels are pretty much the same as the ones up front. There is a grab handle here, no hook or anything. There's an overhead light. And then, there's not even a fold down center armrest. I'm just now realizing that. Cup holders, not even a USB port back here. Huh. I think that about does it for the back seat. Yeah, it's kind of tight back here. I don't know that I'd be super comfortable on a long road trip, but I could probably do 4 or 5 hours back here. Okay, driving this 2022 Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro. So I've now reviewed 5 Tacomas, 3 TRD Pros, 1 TRD Off-Road, and an SR5. As far as the TRD Pros go, you can see I'm hitting some potholes here. Yeah, the suspension is marginally better than in the TRD Off-Road. Just like the suspension in the TRD Off-Road is marginally better than the regular suspension in other Tacomas. They say they've changed it over the years. It seems like every model year they say the Tacoma TRD Pro has received retooled or recalibrated shock absorbers. I doubt you'll be able to tell the difference yourself, even if you drove them side by side by side. If you're going off-road a lot, the suspension is kind of nice, but keep in mind that it's still an OEM suspension. It's a relatively simple OEM suspension. So you're still not really approaching what you can get via the aftermarket or some of the more sophisticated systems that you get in like the Ford F-150 Raptor. Powertrain in this thing, just to review, 3.5 liter V6 puts out 278 horsepower and only 265 pounds-feet of torque. That is mated to the worst 6-speed automatic transmission in the world. You can get this with the manual,
And that's probably the one instance where I'd say, yeah, sure, get the Tacoma if you really want the manual. But yeah, the powertrain, as you're about to find out, is this vehicle's Achilles heel in addition to payload capacity. There's 50 miles per hour, so it's pretty slow. I don't like this transmission. It hunts for gears. It seems to be calibrated for fuel economy, and that results in a vehicle that is not very pleasant to drive day to day. This vehicle on paper, well, power is at the bottom of the segment to begin with, but it's not because of power. It's because of the way this transmission is programmed and the way the vehicle is geared. It's hard to keep up on the highway in this vehicle. I'm constantly having to accelerate or put the pedal down further just to keep up with traffic. When I do, the transmission's going all over the place, going from 6th to 5th to 4th to 3rd to 4th to 3rd to 4th. Yeah, driving this vehicle is frankly not a very great experience. And frankly, Toyota could put a better engine and transmission in this vehicle if they wanted to, and a better gear set, but they don't, because they don't have to, because enough people buy this vehicle as it is, which is frustrating to an analytical type like me. But hey, we're gonna go over some speed bumps here. Let's take this one at 30 miles per hour. Yeah, the suspension absorbed it pretty nicely. There was really no bucking or anything like that. I half expected there would be. Yeah, again, that was our second speed bump, also taken at 30 miles per hour. Our third speed bump here is bigger than the first two. Let's go, this is about 40. Yeah, wow, felt pretty good. I will say, I've taken, I think it was a 2020 model year Tacoma over those speed bumps, and I feel like I remember that experience being a little rougher. So, hey, maybe they have made a noticeable difference to the shock absorbers on this truck. Backup camera is the worst backup camera, I think, in any production vehicle right now. It is terrible. Makes poor use of the infotainment screen. Very, very low resolution, oversaturated. You can barely tell what's on the ground beneath you. It's almost like they're playing a trick on you with this backup camera, because it is so bad. There is a 360-degree top-down view. Again, very low resolution. And again, that's because they can market that this vehicle has a 360-degree top-down camera, which checks a box for a lot of people. They don't have to say that it's the world's worst backup camera and 360-degree camera. But yeah, it is. So that is your look at this 2022 Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro. This truck certainly checks a lot of boxes for a lot of buyers. It has a truck bed. It certainly looks the part. It has some fun features like this multi-terrain select and crawl control system. Also has a locking rear differential. It's par for the course for a midsize off-road oriented pickup. I said at the beginning of the video that I think this truck still gets more credit than it really deserves, and that's due to a few things. This truck's credit, the selling points of this truck are generally reliability and resale value. So let's start to unpack those a little bit. As far as reliability goes, I don't argue that Toyota builds reliable products, and I don't argue that the Tacoma isn't a reliable truck. Thing is, I don't think any vehicles in this segment are really that unreliable. When you look at this truck's top competitors, Ford Ranger, Chevrolet Colorado, GMC Canyon, and Nissan Frontier, I don't think any of those trucks are really going to be unreliable. And in fact, when you look at the data, Consumer Reports for 2021 actually named the Ranger the most reliable midsize truck. The Tacoma came in second there. So when you look at the data, the Tacoma really doesn't have as much of an advantage there. We tend to assume the other options are unreliable just because the Tacoma here is generally reliable, and I don't believe that to be the case. The other selling point of this truck is resale value, which I can't really argue with. The only thing there is the reason this vehicle has such high resale value kind of feels like a bubble to me. It's because everyone else thinks it's so reliable, and when people maybe start to realize that this truck doesn't have as much of an advantage when it comes to reliability, I don't know that it will continue to enjoy this great resale value going forward. So a couple things to keep in mind there. And this truck really does have two big shortcomings, and that's what's most frustrating to me about it. First is powertrain. Engine, transmission, and gearing combo here is barely tolerable by modern standards. The way this truck behaves on the highway, the way it behaves when it's towing, and I've towed with these, the way it behaves when it's loaded down, and I've driven these loaded down, it's really not that pleasant. It's mainly the automatic transmission is the culprit. So if you want one of these and you want the manual, fine. But if you want one of these and you're insisting on an automatic transmission, I would probably look elsewhere. Driving over high mountain passes at high elevation, towing, driving around the city, driving on the highway. This vehicle, it just doesn't behave right. Toyota is capable of more than this. Then the other frustrating thing is payload. This vehicle offers under 1,000 pounds of payload. And I don't think most people realize just how quickly payload adds up. Say you have 4 passengers, you're already looking at probably about 600 pounds. That leaves you with 300 to 400 pounds of remaining payload. Better hope you don't have more than 300 to 400 pounds of gear, because you're probably going to overload this vehicle. I've gone on a camping trip with 3 friends and all of our camping gear and mountain bikes, and that weighed in at almost 1,300 pounds. So we took a Ford Ranger on that trip, which had over 1,300 pounds of payload, so we were fine. But yeah, this truck wouldn't have been appropriate for a trip like that, which I think is kind of eye-opening. So keep that in mind there when you're shopping for a midsize truck. This truck is due to be redesigned. I'm thinking for the 2024 model year. I imagine they will fix the powertrain. It's looking like it's going to have a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine and a 10-speed automatic transmission, just like the Ford Ranger. It'll be built on the new TNGA F platform, just like the new Tundra, Sequoia, LX600 Land Cruiser. So I think they will fix that. But given that the new Tundra really doesn't offer great payload capacity either, I think that puts a cap on how much this vehicle can improve in terms of payload capacity. So I imagine that will remain its Achilles heel even as we move into the 4th generation Tacoma. But that's not to say this vehicle is terrible. It frustrates me, and I'd probably go with the Ford Ranger if I were shopping in this segment, and who knows, in a year or so I may be. But it offers fun features. The TRD Pro model certainly looks cool. Its advantages off-road are probably overblown. If it were me, I'd probably go with a TRD off-road. I think that's acceptable for most people. You still get all of the features like crawl control, rear locker, 4-low, all-terrain tires, Bilstein suspension is fine. Either way though, Toyota Tacoma here is going to satisfy most midsize truck buyers. I just think there are much better values elsewhere in this segment. Thank you for watching.